Good morning everyone and welcome to the Two-Headed Wolf Gaming channel as we are doing our first Let's Play of Victoria 3, a grand strategy game that is put out by Paradox Interactive. And I don't think this game needs any more of an introduction other than this. However, I'm hoping that it will be so cool that we will be doing many more from here on out. And what should you be expecting from this first Let's Play? I am familiar with Victoria 2, I have played that game a lot, so in a sense you could say that I understand the game, I understand the political situation of the time, and I know how to take a country and make it successful. At least in theory. In practice I am a total noob at Victoria 3. I decided last week, because I didn't have a voice to start a new series because I was sick, I just entered the game in order to familiarize myself with the menus, and I spent from 30 minutes to an hour just looking through the Excel of information that any grand strategy provides, trying to figure out how do they all work together. Other than that, I've avoided any kind of let's play, any kind of streams, any kind of developer diaries or things like that, because I didn't want to spoil it for myself, and I wanted to share this first campaign with you guys. And what should you be expecting from here on out is a slow start, probably reading through more information than usual, not being too efficient in what we are doing, but as we learn we are going to speed it up to a point where we'll be very efficient at what we do, and definitely future campaigns will be very quick. But if you're looking for a let's play where I'm min-maxing from the start, this is not that campaign. I have an idea for the future. I will want to do Wallachia or Moldova, because I don't know about you, but I always want to form my very own country. And I am from Romania. I find this campaign to be very interesting. However, being surrounded by Russia, the Ottoman Empire and Austria, trying to navigate the political situation of the time to take the territory necessary in order to form Romania, seems a bit of a advanced campaign, I would say. Because we are under the protectorate of the Ottomans, so the first thing we would have to do is probably ally ourselves with Russia, Prussia, Austria, maybe France, who knows, whoever would support us and our independence, and try to get independent, get out of the protectorate of the Ottomans, because we will not be able to do anything until then, and hopefully take Dobroja in the process. Afterwards, we will have to get also Moldova and make it. I don't know if we can unite or what we could do early on. Afterwards, try to ally ourselves with the Ottomans and maybe Russia in order to take Transylvania from Austria, and it's only then that we will have the necessary territory in order to form Romania. So it seems like a very interesting campaign, a lot of restarts maybe, trying to get the situation that you want or the right conditions to get what you want. And thus, I disconsidered it for a first campaign. From the title you already know that we're picking the Japanese shogunate. And why is that? Well, Japan is the first country that I ever played in Victoria 2. And even though I was a noob at the game, I managed to recreate the Japanese Empire and take some territory. Like took Korea, I took part of China, I took the Philippines, I took this zone from Russia. And I remember going and fighting the US, but because I was so young, I didn't understand all the mechanics correctly. And back then there were no, or if there were, access to the internet wasn't that great, so I wouldn't really look on YouTube for tutorials and things like that. That happened a lot later on. However, the point of this was that I didn't know how to supply my troops well enough, and I was taking a lot of attrition in the United States, pretty much getting kicked out of the US. However, the game ended because time was up and I was fairly satisfied with what I managed to do for a first campaign. Second reason why I want to play Japan is because I do love the Japanese country or culture. I wanted to go to Japan. About 15 years ago I studied Japanese to quite an advanced level. I wanted to go to university, I wanted to move there and maybe get a job in Japan. However, plans have changed and here we are today, just wanting to visit, but the pandemic really put a damper on that plan. So what do we need to know about the Japanese shogunate? We are a major power, but we are an unrecognized major power. So what does that mean? Well, we are perceived as inferior and uncivilized by the reigning great powers, who regard us as little more than potential future conquests. As a result, our prestige is penalized and we can get targeted with more severe diplomatic plays. We are also restricted in what ranks we may reach, no matter how much prestige we acquire. Right now we are 15th in rank with a current prestige of 99. And we can reach a maximum of 12 in the world until we become a recognized country. If we stay with 99 prestige right now, if we stay under 108 for a longer period of time, we will become an unrecognized regional power. And that means that we will be opened to even larger diplomatic plays from the greater powers. So we have to be careful with this. We start with 105 battalions. That is quite good to begin with. China has 445, but they have a great population. But Korea has 30. If we take a look at Russia, they have 285. There are countries in Europe that have much less armies. You can see Spain has 86. Great Britain has 105. The only big advantage that they have is technologically. But we will try to catch up. We are ruled, our form of government is a shogunate. And that means that the government is ruled by the shogun, a powerful feudal lord who has secured the loyalty of the landed class. Though there is nominally an emperor, the monarchy has no real power to govern the country. Even to today, Japan has an emperor, but he's more of a, I don't know if spiritual leader is the right word for it. I haven't lived, I haven't gotten that close, and I was never that interested in the emperor itself to understand what the emperor truly represents in Japan. If you are from Japan, although I feel like that is a huge long shot, maybe you can let me know how do you feel about the emperor in Japan, like what does he represent for the people? I'd be curious to learn. And we have our shogun, right? He is the ruler. We have the possibility to bring back the emperor in or during these times, and that's how you recreate the Japanese empire. Not sure if we'll have to do it through a civil war. I'm hoping that we don't have to, but we will see how the cards are played and how the game implemented this mechanic. Our shogun, Ienari Tokugawa, is a major character. There are plenty of characters within the game representing major groups or the generals of the game, and their traits will influence plenty of the politics within the game. I will explain more later, but let's just take a look at him. He is arrogant. Our shogun is arrogant, meaning that he will lose 25 popularity. That's how much the people like us. This arrogant trait will apply differently depending on the role that he occupies. Because he's a ruler, he will lose 10 legitimacy. And legitimacy is how much the people consider that you are the right person in the right role. Right? You are the ruler of the country and we see you as doing the right thing. He also has expensive tastes, providing us with 25 popularity, pretty much cancelling out the arrogant rate. And as a ruler, we'll get 5% extra prestige, which is great because we need it, but we also get 5% in taxways, which is not great, but it will have to do. For the rest of the traits, we'll speak more about them within the game. The Japanese shogunate, the strength of the ruling Tokugawa shogunate is failing, with famine and unrest spreading all across the country. The Edo period has lasted in Japan for over 200 years. Will it be able to last for 200 more? Well, we will have to see. We'll play on standard difficulty because I want to understand how the AI will play. I want him to be in standard aggressiveness, both in diplomatic plays and in aggressiveness. I want to understand how the game is played on a standard difficulty. And if we fail, then we will do our best to fail in a grand way. For the first thing that I would like to do and I would like to talk about is the government, because this represents a big part of Victoria. It represents what we do and who we are. In the direction that we want to take the country, we will have to see, but this is who we are at the moment. As far as laws go, when it comes to power structure, we are a monarchy, we are an autocratic, we have national supremacy as far as citizenship goes, meaning that our primary culture is the most important one. Freedom of conscience when it comes to church and state. We have hereditary bureaucrats when it comes to bureaucracy. Basically, you keep your family within the bureaucracy, which is not great in certain ways. We have peasant levies as an army model, and we have internal security, no home affairs. All of these provide you with advantages or disadvantages. Some of them, of course, provide no kind of effect. And there's a lot of information here. There's, as I said, an Excel of information. We will not be going through all of them except when it's important to do so. The most important thing that we have to look at when it comes to Japan is under the economy tab, under trade policy, because we are isolationists. That means that we've closed down our country. There's no trade routes. We don't trade with the outside world, and this is one thing that we will have to change. At least that's how I feel. Because we trade only internally. It's good on one side because that means that we are getting, or we can balance our resources in such a way where everyone has what they need. The bad thing is we can't import any resources and we can't export any resources. Thus, any new business that we will make will require another business to open in order for the first business to be successful. To give an example, if we're producing steel at some point, unless we're building buildings out of steel, unless we're making weapons, unless we're using it, the steel business will die down. And thus we are somehow limited in trying to develop our country. This is what I feel is the first major move that I want to make. So what does isolationists give us? As I said, no trade routes, minus 50% to maximum declared interest, and that is a diplomatic move where you say that you are interested in a certain territory, or whether you want to conquer it or do certain political games, take over a trade market, I'm guessing, or things like that. We get plus 50% to authority. That is pretty good. Authority is up here. You'll be using it in order to enforce certain decisions. Minus 15% technological spread. That is technology that is, in a sense, automatically researched without you having to do anything, just because people around you have already researched it. And plus 25 to taxation capacity, which will provide us with more cash, and that is really good. For the rest of them, as I said, I do not care to go through at the moment. If we're talking about our shogun, major characters have these kind of traits. He's a traditionalist as far as a view on the world. And what does that mean? Well, he has two stances. A stance on the rights of women, meaning he strongly opposes women's suffrages and women in the workplace. He's neutral towards propertied women, and he endorses legal guardianship. Legal guardianship, which provides us with 5% birth rate right now, because women are legally under the guardianship of men and enjoy very few rights. He also has a stance on the church and state. He strongly opposes total separation and freedom of conscience, but endorses the state religion. What does that mean? Does that mean that if we want to change, or that the country has this law implemented? No, it just means that whenever we want to change a law, you can see that we have freedom of conscience and we do not have the state religion in place. But if we wanted to go for the state religion, he would support this. The more people you have with the right type of support, the easier it will be for you to change a law. For example, we have here some interest parties. The shogunate is the major one right now. This is supported by the aristocrats and the clergymen. So these type of ideologies are supported by these types of people. And because the shogunate is happy with us, we get some bonuses from them. Family ties, getting 20% extra influence, and influence is used for diplomatic plays. If they become happier because we have a certain law or we've made certain moves, they will give us noblesse oblige, which provides us with 20% extra investment pool contribution from the aristocrats, and that is money in order to open certain businesses. If they become unhappy with us, we will lose 20% both in agriculture, ranching and plantation tax. So that can be a problem, depends on what you want to go for. And every interest group has their own traits of what they support and what they oppose. And another major thing which you have to pay attention to, you might not know about this, but major characters within a party and their traits represent a huge support or opposition towards changing laws. They are the most influential person within that group. Everybody looks up to them, and the direction that they want to take will influence a lot what you can do or how difficult it is for you to implement a certain law. You can see that there are people who are moderate. Basically, they have no stances on no particular thing, so they will not influence anything. But if we take a look at Tachikawa Mori, right, the politician, the ruler of the shogunate interest group, he is jingoistic. And that means he endorses in the army model mass conscription and professional army. And he has a stance on colonization of going for colonial resettlement or exploitation. If I want to go here, right, from no colonial affairs to colonial resettlement or colonial exploitation, you can see that we have huge support, very little opposition, and there are parties that are indifferent. But if we go here to the support, to the endorsement, you can see that Tachikawa Mori from this party endorses the change, providing us with +5 to this support. Right? He endorses this a lot. The samurai also endorse this, and we have another character from the petite bourgeoisie, which is a marginalized party that also supports this movement. So if he was pacifistic, we would have here a huge opposition to expanding, and that can play a very major role in when can you change a certain law. I'm not gonna go through all of the other parties at this moment, except to show you what traits we are getting, what bonuses we are getting right now from the samurai, because they are happy. They provide us with -10 to technological cost, military technological cost, and that is cool. From the intelligentsia, we are receiving -10% prestige because they are unhappy with us, and they are unhappy because we are autocratic, we have national supremacy, we have hereditary bureaucrats, local police force, no schools, serfdom, and legal guardianship. So they will mostly be unhappy with us for a very long time. They are pretty much in the opposition. You can reform your government, like if we are trying to provide strength to certain changes, or you want to remove strength from certain changes, you can go to reform government. And you can bring parties in. For example, we could bring in the Buddhist monks, trying to give them more strength in our decision. And you can see here, laws with governmental movement or movement support, or laws without governmental or movement support will change when we bring the Buddhist monks within our party. However, it will cost us legitimacy. If we want to take out the shogunate as our supporting party, because they are the most influential ones, and they will join the opposition, you will see that our legitimacy will tank, and there will be 7.7 thousand radicals, people who could pretty much remove us from government, they will rise up and there might be some sort of a civil war. Okay, I feel like that is all that I want to talk about right now in this section. You need to understand this, or I wanted you to understand this more because we will be playing with it a lot. And thus it will be important for you to understand what this menu is about, or when do we get a plus, when do we get a minus from it. There is a big move that I want to do from the start. If we're taking a look at laws and we look at the trade policy of isolationists, you can see that the industrialists want to open the borders, or they opposed isolationism, and the shogun and the peasant endorse isolationism. And I want to provide more power to, or more clout to this party, and thus I will start bolstering. And that means that we will work actively to attract more support for this party. When they reach 5%, they will turn up here in the opposition, so they will become influential enough to where they can have sort of a say in what laws we are making and what we are doing. Long term, what I want to do is take out the shogunate, reduce their power within our country, and bring the industrialists in. Probably the Buddhist monks I will want to bring in as well, but we will have to see how that goes as we play along. We can't suppress the shogunate because they have just too much power within the government right now, to where you can't just go out there and be like, hey, how about we just remove some people from the major party in our country. That will not happen. People will stop you. Whew. Yeah, as any grand strategy game from Paradox Interactive, there's so much to talk about. What else are we going to do going forward? Well, let's take a look at research. We have production, military, and society. There will be technologies that will research on their own, but we can focus on one of them if we want. And the move that I want to do first is colonization. That will provide us with 2 + 2 to the maximum colonial affairs institution investment. We need this, and it will take us 23 months in order to go here to laws and start a sort of colonial settlement. And there are 2 regions right here. We have the Ainu Moisir and the Sakhalin, or Shakalin. No, it's Sakhalin. These are uncolonized territories. There are people within it, there are people settled, but there's no form of centralized government. You cannot declare war on them because there's no one to declare war on. But you can start colonizing the territories. They might grow unhappy, of course, but we are trying first of all to expand on Japanese Hokkaido. So this entire region is called the Japanese Hokkaido. This one, Russia might also fight for. I'm not sure that we will have enough time here to expand before Russia does. If they do, we won't have any kind of power to get in. I do not want to go to war with Russia early on. You can see we both have claims on this isle. I will go and hope to begin improving our relationship with Russia over here. I would like to begin damaging our relation, to be honest, with Korea. They might want to improve it with us, but I want to declare our interest over here. You can see that in the diplomatic lens, we can set a declared interest, and we have a certain amount of power depending on the territories that we want, and we can declare interest wherever we want in the world. We will get probably events at some point, or we will be able to declare wars and things like that to different regions. Now, if I look around here, we have Papua but I am not sure that we will have the range to get over here. That is one of the elements that I do not know. If that is something that can happen, like if we can expand in that direction. So I am just going to go here for the moment. Maybe we'll do some sort of a political play at some point, trying to release Korea from the tributary state that it is. Politics or diplomacy. So they are a tributary state of China, which means that if we declare war on them, China might intervene because they are paying tribute to China. We will see how the cards play in that direction. We have a budget overview. You can tax more or less, so you can tax on certain goods as well, but it can create problems long term. You can decide you can decide to construct buildings from wooden buildings to iron frame buildings to steel frame buildings and finally arc welded buildings, which require different resources. Depending on what you go for, you will get more construction within your country, thus constructing quicker, and 1% state construction efficiency. At this moment we just have +2 and 0.5 because we're constructing our buildings out of fabric and wood. It's fairly cheap, we just need fabric and wood. At the next level we will need iron and tools and so on and so forth. It's interesting as a mechanic to use our resource. We have medium wages both on military and government. If we go up, we will get more wages, we'll pay more money, but people will approve. The intelligentsia and the samurais will approve of higher wages. Of course they will. Then we have our buildings, and we already start with a few buildings within our country. At this point we have 6 textile mills, 2 furniture manufacturers, glassworks, paper mills, ports. We have urban centers, which is just a urbanization of the city. You can see up here, these are our cities. Every building you construct will be shown on the map. The roads will improve. Like, we will have different villages with different industries. I find the map to look quite cool. I am curious to see how it will grow if you can spread enough within Japan to where it will look like a grand city. And then we have government administration. There are territories that have this. They will produce bureaucracy and increase our taxation capacity over here, but it will require paper and it will require a bunch of people, bureaucrats, clerks, aristocrats and clergymen, in order for this to function. In the rural area we have rice farm, livestock, dye plantations, some tea plantation, tobacco plantation, silk, which are great things to have, especially in trading, but because we are closed within our borders, we can't really trade anything. Then we have some logging camps, fishing wharves, whaling station, subsistence farms and subsistence orchards. Subsistence farms and orchards, they are buildings. Basically there are peasants who have a backyard farm and they will work for their very own food. They provide a little food to us as well in taxation and things like that, but they do not have any kind of organized farming that could really help us. We have some barracks here and some ports, and we have construction centers. We just build different types of buildings. Okay, what do we need? What else do we need to know? Finally, we have our Japanese market over here. We have a lot of grain. We're producing it in Hokkaido, but we have no one to sell it to. We have 1.30k amount of goods, and you see the price is going down. If you have surplus, the price will continue to go down. If you have a demand like this one, the price will go up, and you really need to balance the market internally. Let's start constructing a few buildings. First of all, I would like to increase our construction sectors. Now, there are different ideas. If you have construction sectors in a territory, the efficiency of constructing in that area will be higher. I will want to make 2 here in Kansai and Chubu. In Kansai we have Kyoto, which is our capital. We also have over here Edo, which I don't know if it's a good idea to move the capital over there at some point, but we will have to see. And if we take a look at our resources, we have a demand for wood, and we will have an even higher demand for wood as we go along and we expand our construction business. So I would like to expand this first of all. If I go to resources and I go to logging camps, you can see here how many buildings or how many levels we have already, and it can show you like what profitability is, or where could you make some buildings and what profitability you will get, at least as an idea. At some point things might change depending on, of course, demand, supply and demand, but that is not important. Let's construct first of all some logging camps. If you build them in the same areas, if you expand the businesses that you have already, if you have enough people, then the cool thing is that you will be expanding your goods as well. So if we go here to ruler and we go to logging camps, when we take a look at this building, the level will increase the through output. So there is a good idea to make your entire business in one area, right? Expand it to the max, bring the people in, and thus making sure that you are producing goods even more efficiently. However, the problem is, as in any kind of game like this, if you put all your eggs in one basket and a war comes around, you might just lose an entire sector of one resource, putting you in big trouble. I will also want to expand on some of the other businesses that I see are important. For example, clothes and furniture. We have an demand for it, there's a pretty good price on it, so I will go to industries, textile mills, and I will decide to make some factories. We have 4 there, we have 2 here. I would like to make 2 textile mills in Chubu, and I will want to make also 2 furniture factories, and I will make these ones in Kansai, or a level 2 one, and I also want to make some tools, and this one I will place in Kanto. When we're taking a look at the type of resources that we are producing, if we look at the textile mills, we can change the production method. We can use advanced tools. We can choose at this point what type of clothes do we want to make. We have non-luxury clothing, or we have craftsman sewing, which uses our clothes in order to produce luxury clothes, which of course have a higher price, and it makes the aristocracy happier. We also have over here the traditional looms that we're using. We can go to mechanized or automatic power looms, but we will need different resources, for example tools, and we will need the research as well, and who owns it, this will change later on depending on what we want to do. And because we have some luxury clothes maker, I would like to make one of the business just go for standard clothes, make standard clothes for the people and provide standard clothes for these luxury businesses. I think that is important. For the furniture manufacturers, there's the same idea. We're producing luxury furniture, which catches a better price, but I will prioritize non-luxury furniture as well to supply the luxury furniture ones and also to supply the demands of normal people. You can see there's a demand here for luxury, both on the furniture and also for the luxury clothes. Not a high one, but there is a demand there and it will go up. Okay, we will start with these businesses, after which I will want to change things around and get ourselves some coal mines, some iron mines. Once we put out iron and coal, we need to spend it on something. Well, there are certain problems with this idea, because what are you going to spend it on? Making steel? We can make steel, that is great, and Japan is a wonderful country to experiment industrialization for the very first time, because we have spaces to build coal mines, we have iron mines, we have lead mines, we have sulfur mines. All the resources necessary for you to build a great army and a huge navy, it's within your territory. The only thing that you're missing is more people, which at some point we might be taking from China. But making steel at this point will represent a problem, because what will you be doing with it? We don't really have a business right now that would use steel, so that is not a thing that we could do. We can make a small arms industry that could really help us, because it will require iron and it will require hardwood, so we could do this in order to use our iron. And on the other side, when we're looking at some of these buildings in the urban area, the urban centers, we could change here from street lighting from unlit street to gas street lights. This will provide us with more services for our people, and that will be necessary later on. But it will also require us some coal in order to light the streets up. And that is great. It will change the workers from the unlit, which doesn't do anything, to increase employment in engineers and laborers. That is great for moving on people through society. And the great thing is we will have an internal market and the reason to expand businesses that we will need even more later on, right? It's giving us a reason to build this mine, and I love that idea. Thus, let us place a coal mine. We'll build one in Kyushu. I want to build them as far from the Russians as possible at this moment, and I'll build an iron mine in Shikoku. Anything else that we need to do? Well, a final look is at the population. If you don't know about the population, every region has their majority, which at this moment, for example, in Kansai, we have aristocrats, we have monks, and we have peasants. These are our major groups within this region, within this country. And you can see their standard of living. That means how much from their goods are they receiving, like the goods that they require. And you can go very deep within this to pretty much figure out what they need and how can you provide them. Prices influence how much they can afford and things like that. Shows you here that these are wealthy landowners, old money with old connection. As owners of farms and plantation, they contribute some of their profits to the investment pool. Their political interests are represented as the landowners. So this mill right here. Only pops with adequate wealth can become aristocrats. So any populace from within our city can become an aristocrat, but they will have to generate enough wealth to do so. They will have to work in places that have higher wages or have jobs with higher wages, and at some point they will evolve. They will move up the ladder and become aristocrats. All of these are simulated. I do not know the entire calculations behind, but it's crazy what you can do. You can see that we have within our capital peasant, laborers, clergymen, aristocrats, clerks, servicemen, farmers, shopkeepers, bureaucrats, machinists, and officers. So these are the people which right now are within this region, and they will try to get as much as possible. They will influence the politics, they will go up the ladder and take different jobs, which will be necessary, especially as you are evolving and growing technologically speaking. The clergymen are middle strata. You require a lot more literacy in order to become a clergyman. And a peasant is just a peasant, someone who works in subsistence farms, right? They work on their very own territory, and that's all there is. Let's get this game started. You can see here that if you take a look at one region in the information, you can find so many modifiers that sometimes, I guess it's too much, right? You don't need to go through all that information in order to play the game. We've declared our interest. We're losing power right now because we have only 99 per siege and we need 108. So there is a chance that we will demote, but we have a year ahead of us in order to turn that around. Okay, there's nothing else here. We have a new decision in our journal. These are these events that can happen, and it tells you what do you need in order to have one of these events kick in. For example, the whaling industry. In order to get the event a dangerous business, we will need to expand on our whaling business. We need to make it to level 3, have a workforce occupancy greater than 75, and have cash reserves in the business of 25. Cash reserve within the business means that we are going to, if we are a successful business, we keep some money within the business. It shows, and I feel that the whaling business is here in Kanto, right? Yes. So we have these cash reserves. When the business is not doing too well, they will use cash reserves in order to protect their business from going bankrupt. You can subsidize sometimes the businesses to keep them afloat until a market stabilizes itself, but it really depends on the type of government, what your economic laws are, whether you have a free market or whether you have state intervention or things like that. So we need to bring this to level 3, and we also need to have an admiral within our party. The event will time out in 9 years if we do not make it happen. And thus, I want us to go to fishing wharfs, not wishing, to the whaling station, and I want to go to level 3 here. This business is producing meat, and the price is quite good for the meat. That's why we have this small profit margin right here. It also consumes clippers. We are producing some of our clippers around here. We have some ports. They are decently priced, but we have a lot of oil that we are not consuming anywhere. That's why we have this price which has tanked at minus 75% of 303. It's really not great, but what can you do? If you do not have a market open to you, you cannot really sell it or do anything. This business also has a mortality rate of laborers of 30% and of machinists of 20%, which is crazy, but hey, it is a dangerous business. And I am going to go here to the construction, and I will say that I want this event to go up because I want a whaling station as soon as we're finishing our construction sectors. The British has responded to the opium ban in China. So China did an opium ban event and they have responded angrily. They might really intervene here in order to keep the markets opened. Manchuria interest activated, so now we have an interest in Manchuria. This is the changes in the markets, and Russia may no longer be able to participate in diplomatic plays, conduct diplomacy, create trade routes and with countries in the Manchuria region. Okay. They've probably been kicked out by someone else, or maybe they've retreated their interests. We'll speed it up. There's not a whole lot happening at the moment. And we're just taking our time here to check out the prices, see how they go. You can see that since we are constructing a lot, the prices of timber, of wood, has gone up by 25%. The demand for it has gone up as well. Now we've made 2 more construction offices. We have a good amount of profit right now, which is great. The prices are going down because it's us who spend the money in order to construct the building. It's us who buy the woods. You can see there that we are getting a few things. First of all, temporary national expenses because we're buying construction goods. So that is our major spending. We are giving some money away to military, government, and the goods for government buildings, but they're not as impressive. One big problem that we have in Japan right now is our tax inefficiency. We're losing a lot of money over here. You can see that in Kansai, in this region, we are using 787 taxation capacity from a maximum of 249, which means that we are losing 68.3% of our taxes. That's a big portion of our economy. Expanding it will be very difficult. The price of wood has gone up a lot, but with a few more businesses, logging businesses, we will be able to at least make more money from this. The businesses will be successful, and that is great. The Buddhist monks have become now powerful within our parties, and intelligentsia have gone up. There is a certain amount of tendency to go towards neutral for all of the parties if you do not do things that they approve of or things like that, because they went +1 and they're no longer at -5. We've gained 10 prestige back. We're no longer getting the penalty to prestige. This game works so great with coffee. We have here Omani shipping lanes, so you can see that there's some trade going through here, which it's crazy that the Ottomans are going through here. Like, what is their trade route? So they are using these regions in order to get up here to Russia. And Russia is trading back, yes. They're selling liquor, paper, tools and artillery. The petite bourgeoisie like us, they are happy with us right now, providing us with 10% extra bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is used in order to support, I guess, certain institutions more than not. You can see here that we have a law enforcement within the state. The law enforcement is just a local police force right now. And because it's local police force, the landowner have more political strength, right? They dictate, because they have influence, they dictate who's right, and thus giving plus 10% to the shogunate interest group. They give them more political power, and also minus 20% to the state penalties from turmoil. That is good. Turmoil are bad events, but we can go higher. We can spend 311 more. We're quite doubling the investment in this, but we would get even more political power to the shogunate and minus 40% state penalties from turmoil. So you can go up to the 4th level, but you need some research for that. We'll be using a lot of our political states to do so. If we want to take the power away from the shogunate, we need to enact the dedicated police force. And right here you can see who does endorse this. The peasants, the samurai, the intelligentsia, the petite bourgeoisie, and who opposes this? Of course, the shogunate. Now there's a 7% chance every day that we will be able to enact this. It's not a huge chance. We will need to figure out a way of taking this power early on. And why do I say that? Well, as I said, I spent a lot of time. If I didn't have a voice to record, and I really hated it, I spent a lot of time looking through the menus, and hopefully you find this useful in a way that it's entertaining. Maybe you're sitting back in the bed and you are watching this and enjoy the coffee or good work today. Hope you have a nice rest. I can explain quite a few things. I do not know the late game, but I know the early game. Over here we have a decision. First of all, to adopt the state Shinto with restoration of the imperial household to politics power, it would be wise to integrate local beliefs into the official state religion, emphasizing the emperor's divinity. Well, what does that mean? Well, once the emperor is back, we will give this idea that he is sent by God, right? He is the chosen one. He has magic powers and everything that you want. He is a living god. Thus, we need to adopt state Shinto. And what does that do? Well, we need first of all to have completed the honorable restoration journal entry. We'll get to that in a second. The Buddhist monks have to be one of the powers that are not marginalized, so they need to be 5%, at least 5% influential within the state. The Japanese shogunate has to have a monarchy. You cannot go like a free country. You cannot make this a diplomatic country and have a emperor. Or you can, I guess, but I guess that idea is wrong. I'm hoping that you understand what, mechanically speaking, you cannot have a diplomatic country and have the emperor lead it. When taken this action, the Shinto becomes the state religion in Japanese shogunate, and the devout, meaning the Buddhist monk, lose the Buddhist moralist ideology and they become Shinto piousness ideology. And that really changes some of the things that they endorse, and we will see when the time is right whether we want to make that change or not. The honorable restoration means that we are bringing the emperor out, but will only activate if the shogunate is not part of our government. Is that easy to do? Well, I just showed you in the beginning that if we take the shogunate right now out of our government, we are actually gaining even less or more of a penalty. Our legitimacy will go down to 8, and we will lose some of our loyalists while getting even more radicalists. So we do not want that at all. The petite bourgeoisie became more influential right now. That's why they're providing us with plus 10 bureaucracy, because they've reached the 5% necessary in order to have a saying within the state. Russia started colonizing Sakhalin, so yeah, they've actually came in here, and it is unfortunate. I would have liked to get in this territory quicker than them. Because they started this, I am not sure that we will try to do so ourselves. You can see that you start with one region and then you expand. So this is where your colony starts, but they will try to expand within this territory. We can fight for it, but once again, I am a bit afraid of what might happen if we try to compete with Russia. We will see. A politician has died, so Tomonosuke Tokugawa has died. He was the leader of the industrialists. That does not matter. These events are important because if you take a look here at the politics, right, this matters a lot when you're trying to change a lord. Now we have enough. We've reached the whaling industry level 3, and we need one more admiral in order to make a change. Let's go here to Navy. Let's recruit an admiral. And we can only bring... Can I not have... Let's wait a bit longer. We only have 2 characters here from the shogunate. The bad thing is, major characters like admirals and military leaders have an influence on the politics, and I do not want to give the shogunate any more power than they have. I want to take it away from them. How are we doing prices wise? You can see wood is still at higher price. We're losing, we have a higher demand on services. There's a lot of demand for furniture and clothes, and thus the buildings that we are about to construct will really add up. There's also a need for paper in order to fulfill our bureaucracy. There were no significant price changes. Okay, that is good. Let's take a look once again at our military. I don't know how often this changes. I'll be waiting maybe one more month to see what's what. Yeah, they grow happy and then unhappy, and apparently this effect goes back and forth. Our buildings should mostly be profitable. When you see a 0 price here, it's from the newly started business, so that's why we have this. But you can see that the rest of them are making a profit. There is an advantage to have an internal market, of course, but I don't know. I mean, if it was successful to be an isolationist, even to today, in real life, there will be countries that, or great countries that would go with that policy, but you can't really do that. Come on, research. There we go. So we have now our colonial decolonization tech, and thus we can go into colonial resettlement. Now, what do we want to do here is go to laws, go to colonization, and pick what do we want to support. I want colonial resettlement. This one has a higher has 100% migration attraction, and it's just colonial resettlement. Basically, we're taking peasants and we're moving them into the colonies. They are pretty much the people that oppose it, also the trade unionists. Colonial exploitation, it's a bit more like we're exploiting them, right? We get 10% more for output from unincorporated states. Unincorporated states, states that haven't been created or brought into part of your country or the organization of a state. But their subsistence output and starting wages are reduced, right? It keeps them poorer, basically. And we would get more tensions because, yeah, people wouldn't like us. This is a 52% chance that it will be a success and 47.3% chance that we will get events that will advance this. If there is a lot of opposition, debate will happen, which can give you advantages or disadvantages or both. And stalled enactment chance, that means that whatever event happens, it will stall the decision from happening. Pretty much like in real life. There's nothing worse than spending a whole lot of time debating and not taking a decision. You can see that some of these technologies have already gotten some bonuses, right? This is the technological spread. So we're getting from the surrounding countries some technologies that they've researched just by being in contact with them. Now, as our next research, I would like to go academia. There is a reason why, but outside of this menu, but there's first reason is to go to romanticism. That we need that 5% extra prestige, at least that's how I feel, in order to keep ourselves up there. We are on the 16th spot right now, and we are there with 124 prestige. We might be pushed back and quick at some point, and thus becoming just a regional power instead of a major one. The other event here, establish a university, is, an event like any other, but we need academia for it. I want to make a university in Kyoto and I think in Nagoya as well, maybe one in Kanto at some point, because I want people to get enough education. They will be very important for us later on when we're growing our businesses. Samurai are really happy with us, they're loyal, thus providing us with patriotic fervor, increasing our offense and defense, but we're not really going to war. The shogunate is really happy with us, providing us with more in our investment pool, more money. The petite bourgeoisie now are loyal as well, thus reducing our loan interest rate, but we're making money, so there's no loans there. The peasants are angry. Now, this huge change right here is because we came up and we said we want to enact colonization, right? The colonial resettlement. And thus, a huge change in the way that we are perceived and our politics. Now, I'm hoping that we can move really quick. I have to really think whether we want to get within this territory. It seems like Russia is going here and expanding quite quickly. Now their attitude towards us is really good, and thus I don't think I want to get within this sector to colonize it. We have implemented, as you can see, we've implemented colonial resettlement. So even though we're not going here, I am going to start colonizing this sector. Thus we'll establish a colony over here. You can see that we started taking some territory. It will take us multiple days to get even more land. We have the power to go here as well. But let me think about it, see if it's a good idea. I'm guessing it's not, and that's why I do not want to do it. If we take a look now, because we went with colonial resettlement, you can see here that in the colonial affairs, in the institutions we have the colonial affairs. We can invest even more bureaucracy, but we're already using some of it because we have colonial growth, thus reducing our bureaucracy up here. So you need to keep the eye on these resources, because we'll be doing a lot more of the diplomatic plays and even decisions within the state. Let me take a look here. Where is it? Decrease, where we will be encouraging certain businesses. For example, encourage resource industry, thus producing more fish, more logging, more from our logging industry and more from our fishing. And because we need wood, quite a bit of it, I want to spend some of this authority. And let's see, where else do we have our lumber industry? It's actually here and up here. So we'll be doing 2 more of those. One in Chugoku and one in Tohoku. And we've used some of our authority, but at least now we are expanding. Promoting national values would be a good idea to do up here, just so we can start assimilating and converting some of the people. If you take a look at the population, there's 87% of them Ainu, right? They are not a major, how do you say, a major faction within our land. And thus they might become discriminated. It might become harder for them to find jobs. There might be harder for them to get certain goods though, and so on and so forth. So we want to reduce that. As far as religion, they are animist, and we have Shinto and Mahayana as our religion, our major religions, Mahayana being the first one. So I want to go over here and I want to say that we want to promote national values over here and make sure that we incorporate them within our nation. We teach them more and we do more in the long run. Okay, so far so good. Our businesses are expanding. Diplomatic play started. Great Britain started a make puppet diplomatic play on the Bolungan. Where are you from? You are here, okay. Take on debt. And Japanese market, the price has tanked for hardwood. We're producing some hardwood, but nobody is buying it. That's why the price has gone down. We will be able to make some weapons soon. In the industry, the arms industry, it consumes hardwood, and that's when the prices will start going up. And I feel like this is a good moment to start our no, this is a good moment to put a cut in here, not to start anything, but we will put a cut and we will come back tomorrow with a brand new episode. I hope you have enjoyed it. I know it was a long one. This is how this campaign starts all the time, especially when we don't know the game for sure. Until tomorrow, I thank you very much for watching and I wish you all to have a wonderful day.